Today is identity theft in the dark web. Oh, gotta hit the right button there. I'm not. I'm a bio, I'm a son of John, retired after 3M, officer, 50 not cheap. I do offer here at Carondelet one-on-one free tech help. So if you want to talk about an issue or a problem or a question that you have, you can sign up for a 30-minute slot from 1 to 3 p.m. on most the first and the third Mondays of the month. You can call the front desk to sign up. The last one was just this week, September 16th, but in October it'll be the first and the third Monday of the month from 1 to 3. The next meeting, Learn About meeting, will be getting internet help and learning, how you can get help, and we'll talk about how to do searches, artificial intelligence, because now you have things like ChatGPT and things like that to help you. There's lots of manuals, tutorials, and just some general troubleshooting there. Also, along with my brother-in-law and sister and my dad, we put on Fix-It Clinic here. Our last one was about a week ago, Monday. Our next one, we do one every 2 months, so the next one will probably be in November. And as it gets closer to that, you can check Wellzesta or the calendar and you'll see it on there. We do publish out on the Carondelet website. There is a section for tech help. So if you're looking for the calendar, whether it's the calendar for the fix-its, the presentations, or the one-on-one help I do, that's out there. Resources, so I'm recording this meeting. That'll be out there along with any handouts. And does everyone have a handout? Okay. Good. If you do need another one or want to revisit any of the recordings, you can go out there. There's also a spot to ask a question. Let's get to the main topic today, which is identity theft in the dark web by myself, Tom Kreuzer. In the last couple of months, there's been a major data breach, and you may have seen it in the newspapers and on TV, of a company called National Public Data, or NPD. And it was in the news because this is one of the largest data breaches that there's ever been in the U.S. It was almost 3 billion names, email addresses, phone numbers, social security numbers, and addresses. And this is up to 3 decades worth of data that's out there about almost everybody in the United States. This National Public Data makes money by collecting and selling access to this personal data to credit card companies, employers, and private investigators. The Social Security number and address history makes it possible for identity theft to create fraudulent bank loans, opening up new credit cards, or filing IRS taxes there. So this is especially troubling with this large data breach of almost everybody's information there. This breach is on top of the hundreds, if not thousands, of other data breaches over the years with large companies like American Express, 23andMe, Equifax, LinkedIn, T-Mobile, Xfinity, the Minneapolis Public Schools, the state of Minnesota, the St. Paul. Almost every company has had data breaches where these thieves have stolen data about us. After every one of these data breaches, most of the data is sold out on the dark web making thousands to millions of dollars for the person or the group that stole the data. That's why there's so many people out there looking to break into these companies and these servers to get at the information because they can make so much money. We are all at risk because of these data breaches and the data that's out there. So first we'll start with a definition, kind of what is identity theft. Identity theft is when thieves use someone's personal data to take over or open new accounts for financial gain. The personal data that you need to take over these accounts or to create new ones are things like a name, date of birth, social security number, account IDs, email, bank accounts, credit card numbers, PIN numbers, passwords, addresses, phones, and lots of other information. Your personal data is always at risk and can be stolen long before you realize that you're a victim. This latest NPD breach actually happened back in January and February of this year. It just made the news in August there. So what are some of the ways that your identity can be stolen? Well, the number one way that your identity can be stolen is through data breaches. That's the most common way that these thieves or people trying to break into your accounts or create new accounts get information is through these data breaches. The second most popular is through malware or spyware activity. So viruses on the computer, whether it's your phone or a tablet or a laptop, information can be stolen if a virus or that is done. The third most popular way to steal an identity is through these scams, phishing, or a spam attack. The scams can be a telephone call, can be a text message, can be an email, asking you to click on something and enter some information and pretending to be your bank, and they capture your information and then use it to open up these other accounts. Okay, once they have this information, how do these thieves use the data that they've gotten? Well, frequently they'll open up new credit card accounts in your name. That's the easiest way for them to steal your identity, is to apply for a new credit card and have it sent to them. They may use your credit card or your account numbers to make purchases, whether it's with an existing card or with a new card that they've opened up. Another way they can make money is if they're the ones who stole the data, they can sell it on the dark web. Fourth way is to file fraudulent taxes or steal your tax refunds that you may be eligible for. The fifth way is they know your ID and password to access financial accounts. So if the data breach was, let's say, with a bank like Wells Fargo, they might have gotten an ID and a password to be able to log into an account there. So we mentioned that this information is for sale and available out on this dark web. So what is the dark web? Well, the dark web isn't one site or one location like www.darkweb.com. It's a combination of things. The internet is made up of 3 different layers, and one is called the surface or clear layer, and you have a deep layer, and then you have the dark web. The surface or clear is only 4% of the internet, but that's what most of us in this room use on a day-to-day basis, this 4%. And it's accessed without a password from any browser on your phone or tablet or laptop, and it's indexed by search engines, Google and Bing. So whenever you do a search, it's searching one of these 4% of the internet is surface web up here. The next level in here is what's called the deep web. That's actually 90% of the internet. It's an unindexed, meaning it isn't, if you do a Google search, you won't find these sites and you won't find the information that's on those sites in this deep web. Because this deep web, almost all the services in here require you to use an account and a password to get at it. An example of that would be your email account. You have an account and a password. Well, your email account, somebody next to you could not do a Google search to see what's inside your email account, what emails you get. Only you can look at your information in your email account. So that's the deep web, and it contains, it's password protected. It's all these paid services or services that you may have that are password protected. Could be medical records, could be company private websites, all kinds of information, newspapers that you have to subscribe to and have an account. All of that is on what's called the deep web. The last part of the web is what's called the dark web. Dark web is only 6% of the internet, and it's mainly used for illegal activities, like illegal drugs are bought and sold, weapons, guns are bought and sold, personal information from these data breaches are bought and sold on there. Also, if you want counterfeit money, or and there's websites and forums that host illegal content like child pornography or white supremacy. The dark web requires specific software configurations and authorizations to access. So you can't just use the Chrome browser or the Safari browser on your phone and go out to the dark web. Dark web websites are accessible only through networks such as Tor, which is known as the Anonymity Network, or I2P, which stands for the Invisible Internet Project. Tor focuses on providing anonymous access to the internet, especially if you're going to be doing illegal activity. That's what the thieves want. They don't want to be traced. They don't want authorities to track them down, and that's what the whole dark web is set up for, is to provide that anonymity so that they can do these illegal activities without fearing repercussions. Identities and locations of dark web users stay anonymous and cannot be tracked due to the layers of encryption that these tools that they use provide. Dark web websites increase the value of the stolen data in these data breaches by doing what's called aggregating the data with other publicly available data. So the data breach may expose an address and a social security number, but it may not have a phone number. Well, the phone number is available from another data breach, and the name of the family members is available from another database, and they combine this stuff together to make the stolen data more valuable and to provide a larger amount of data if somebody wants to steal your identity to create new accounts and potentially get into your bank accounts or financial accounts. An individual's data, you can buy it out on the dark web. You can buy it in some cases for pennies, 5 cents, 10 cents. If you wanted to buy a million emails, I can buy, in some cases, I can buy those for $100. Then I could send to all these people an email to buy cryptocurrency, and if they clicked on the link and bought cryptocurrency, I'd make money. That's where these scammers make money by doing things. The more information you have on a person and the more confidential that information is, like a social security number, that the more valuable your information is. So some of the data breaches are worth a lot more money and are bought and sold out on the dark web there. The buyers of this information are spammers and what are called credential stuffers, who take usernames and passwords leaked from one site to log into accounts on other websites where the users have used the same credentials. Everybody has had data stolen, even if you've never had a computer or smartphone. So some people that I talk to will say, but I don't have an account with my bank. I don't have a smartphone. I don't have this, so I don't have to worry about it. Well, unfortunately, this data about all of us is put out there by, let's say, the state of Minnesota or by Best Buy. Whenever you make a purchase, they have information about you. They may have your credit card numbers. They may have your account and password and that. So everybody's got data that's out there, even if you don't use a computer or smartphone. There's sites that you can use to check and see whether your data is out there. And this is one of the sites that I recommend. It's free to use and it's free to check. So let's go out here. When I go out to this site, the only thing it's asking for is to put in an email address. So I'm going to put in my email address and we'll see if any of my data for this email address is out on the dark web. Well, and before we do that, let me do this. I forgot to show. Let's go back here. Let me do this. Let's go back here. No. This site goes out to the dark web and looks at information out on the dark web. And currently, it has information on 14 billion email addresses. Now, in the world, there's only 8 billion people. So almost every email that's ever been created and used by anyone has had data stolen and put out onto the dark web. So almost everybody's out there. So I'll put in my email address here and we'll see if my email address shows up in any data breaches. And here it's showing up in 8 data breaches. And this lists the data breaches that it was involved in. It lists what data was compromised, in this case an email address, an IP address, names and passwords. This LinkedIn email address and passwords, Twitter, names, social media profiles, usernames. So this will list or tell you what was involved in, and when this was done there. Now this, we won't see the NPD data breach out here. At least I'm not seeing my information because most of the information in the NPD data breach was not associated with an email address. So this site is only using your email address to see if you were if it was involved. Because my email address wasn't involved, it's not showing up as the social security number that having been compromised. But I'll show you another way that you can check out there. So this is a free way for you to check to see whether your information has been out there, and almost everybody is going to be out there. As I mentioned, the MPD data breach, the most recent one, doesn't have email addresses for a lot of the information. So you have to use some of these other sites to check and see whether your data has been stolen. So if I use this pentester.com, I have to go out here and I have to put in a name. So I'll put in my name. I have to narrow it down by the state. And then it also wants the year I was born. And we'll do a search. Oh, let's see. I must have, I didn't type it in right here. Let me. So this site is telling me that my information was exposed in the MPD data breach. And just to prove it, it's showing information here. And you can see it's not showing my full Social Security number because it's only showing the last 2 digits, and it's not showing my full date of birth. It's just showing that, yes, that is my year. This is an address I have, and this is the last here. It's hiding the Social Security number for privacy there. So my information was exposed in the most current, and if you do it, you'll find that most people in the United States, their information was exposed in the data breach here. So these sites can tell you free of charge whether information is out on the dark web and potentially what information is out there. For most people, like I keep mentioning, our data is out there. Every one of you here, some parts of your data are out there, and we all need to protect ourselves. So rather than panic and that, our information is out there, it is exposed. What we have to do is we have to figure out how we can protect ourselves. So these next tips and steps are going to be how can you protect yourself given the fact that this information, which you didn't expose, but these other companies exposed your information, and it's available for thieves and hackers. Well, the first and most important thing that you can do is you can freeze your credit. And you can freeze your credit to stop thieves from opening up new accounts, taking out loans, or services using your stolen identity. If you do want to take out a new loan or a new credit card, then you must unfreeze. And it's just as easy to unfreeze as it is to freeze. So you can freeze and unfreeze, get your new car, get a loan, buy a house, and then freeze it back up again. But this is an important step, that what you want to do is you want to freeze it so that somebody can't open new accounts or take out loans or try and impersonate you. If you, I list the 3 different websites because there's 3 different services. You have to do it on all 3 of them. You can't just do it on one. You want to do it on all 3 of these sites to freeze your credit. Doesn't cost you anything to freeze it. When you go out to the site, it'll ask you various questions. And you can see it doesn't cost anything. You do have to create an account if you've never been out here. So this account makes it easy to unfreeze your account. If in the future you want to get a loan or you want to open up a new credit card, you have to unfreeze the account. And so setting up an account and the information makes it easy to do there. I mention in here, beware of fake websites. So you may get an email, you may get a text, somebody may give you a telephone call. We're here to help you freeze your account, and I'll step you through it and do things. You don't want to respond to any of these potential scammers or anything there. So you don't want to click on an email. You want to make sure that you're going to the right place and you're not going to a site where a scammer is just collecting more information about you. So freezing your accounts is the most important thing that you can do. There's also these other things that you can do, and this is the second most important, is to monitor your credit. And you can get a free credit report once a year from each of those three credit services, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And you can go out to the website, the single website, and you can request a credit report there. And that credit report will be a number of pages. It'll list your personal information. It'll list the accounts, so all the credit cards that you currently own. In some cases, it tells you the balance on those cards. It may list cards that you haven't used in years. Maybe you have an old Discovery card that you got years ago and haven't used. It'll list old ones. If you have personal loans for a car or a house or anything like that, it'll list all that. And it may list some public records, whether they're foreclosures or tax liens or things like that. But this is a free report, and you can get it from each of the three credit bureaus out here. You can look at these reports for unusual activity to see if a new credit card has been opened that you're not familiar with, or maybe you have an old credit card that you thought you had canceled but is still open. This will give you that information. You can space out the request for these free reports so that maybe you do them do Equifax right now, and then in 4 months you do Experian, and then 4 months after that you do TransUnion. That way you space them out over the course of the year. You can monitor and see throughout all that time if any new credit cards have been done or if anything's been taking place. So it's a free service. All you have to do is go out and to the website, and it'll create it for you. Okay, next tip goes along with, I mentioned the free service for monitoring. Well, there's lots of places that will charge you a fee to monitor, and they really aren't doing anything more than what we just talked about. I don't recommend, don't waste your money on identity theft monitoring service or insurance like LifeLock. You may have heard of that on TV or on a radio ad. LifeLock's there to protect you, or McAfee Plus, and there's a bunch of different companies that charge, and they can charge up to $40 a month to do this credit monitoring and stuff like that. But if you follow the tips that I talk about, or even tips that you get from the bank will give the same tips I'm giving on where to go and what to do. But if you use these tips, you can protect yourself free of charge, and these monitoring services aren't making it any easier. They aren't going out to these websites and putting a freeze on your account. They just tell you, go out to these websites and put a freeze on your account. So I'm not a real fan of these paid monitoring services when you can do it all yourself for free. Some of the services offer insurance, and they'll hype the fact that they make false claims on how they can help you. So they'll say you're insured up to $1 million of somebody opening up an account or that. Well, actually, you're still going to have to spend the same amount of time talking with your credit card company or things like that. And at the end of the day, maybe it takes a month, maybe it takes a year. Most people get their money back from the credit card company, regardless of whether you had any insurance or any paid for any of these services. So these services aren't making it easier, aren't getting you more money. They're just taking money from you and telling you to do this and do that, which your banks and credit card companies and myself are already telling you do these things. So you don't need these services there. And so when they say they're covering your loss up to $1 million, they've never had to pay out $1 million because nobody has ever lost that. If somebody opened up a credit card without my knowledge, it'd take me a little bit of time working with the credit card company, but in a month or a year, I'd have it all cleaned up, and you would have the same thing without subscribing to any of these services there. And I mentioned in the last sentence, almost all identity theft victims get their money back without having any insurance at all. So it's kind of a phony insurance that they're selling, and they try and put the fear into people that you're going to lose all your money if you don't buy their services, but their services really don't do much anything. Oh, let me go back here. So let's go back. I'm going to go to my email. So I happen to actually have one of the services. I don't pay anything for this service because my account was involved. Experian had a data breach a couple of years ago where 100 million records were exposed on the dark web. And so Experian offered, as part of a class action lawsuit against them, credit monitoring for people if they wanted. And I signed up for it because it was free. And so this is an example of the email I get from them. And they did come out August 29th and sent me an email and said that they found my Social Security number out on the dark web, and it appeared from the National Public Data breach. That's the data breach out there. And then what they're telling me to do is the exact things that we just got done talking about. Go out to the 3 credit bureaus, freeze your credit so that new accounts can't be, and check the credit reports from the 3 bureaus. So this is all stuff that you can do for free, and actually that's what this is saying, is go out and do it. They aren't making it any easier or any harder for you to do there. The other thing that I'll mention, like with this, is this came out August 29th. Well, actually, I had seen in different journals and things like that about the data breach. The data breach itself happened back in January and February of this year. And these tools to look it up, I had looked up back in June or July and found that my information had been breached out on the dark web there. So in this case, this so-called monitoring service was very late telling me that it was out on the dark web because it had been out there for months and months. And that. Okay. Another thing that you should do on your computer and with your stuff is create strong passwords that are unique to each of your online accounts, and change the passwords routinely and never reuse old passwords. So if you've attended some of the presentations in the past, you probably hear me talk about a free password manager called Bitwarden. If you have all Apple products, Apple now has a password manager. You can share the passwords with your devices and you can store them in there. But you want to make sure that you've got these unique passwords, and the average person has 70 different accounts. Whether it's with your bank, whether it's with Carondelet, whether it's with all these different places. And to manage all that, you can't really use a notebook or post-it notes or things like that. You really do need a password manager. And these password managers can then help you make changes to your passwords, keep track of it, and make sure that you can get into your account. I also mentioned here that we did have a presentation back in February of 2024 here called Online Security and Passwords. So if you want more information on that, that's worthwhile. And in there, I also talked about pass keys. I talked about pass keys, which are a new way of logging into systems that don't use passwords. And so sites like Google and Amazon and a lot of financial sites are starting to use these pass keys as an option to log in instead of passwords. Another thing you can do with the accounts and passwords is what's called enable two-factor authentication, 2FA. That's where a second form of authentication, whether it's a text message, an email, a phone call, or an authentication app, will make sure. And that kind of ensures that a stolen password is useless to a thief or a hacker without having this additional mechanism to authorize getting into the account. It's especially important for financial institutions, banks, and email sites, and especially email sites, because email is important because that's the way that most of these sites let you reset a password. If you forget it or need it reset, you go out to your email and click on a link or that. Another thing you can do with your credit cards and bank statements is monitor the charges and payments that are done. And you can turn that on. Every bank that I've seen or credit union now supports either emails or notifications that you get from your bank or brokerage or credit card telling you every time there's a transaction. So that's another way to stay informed of when your account is being used. I mentioned here, go paperless when you can. Statements are securely delivered and stored right in your account online. If you choose not to create an online account, you're more vulnerable than if you do create an account. So I'll have people tell me, well, I'm afraid of creating an online account because somebody's going to break in and get access to all my money. Well, if you don't create an online account, it's much easier for a thief or a hacker or a crook to set up that online access, because if they have your social security number, if they have your birthday, if they have your addresses, they can usually set up that account. So even if you don't plan on using online banking or accounts, you want to set up that account access online. Just don't use it on your phone or your laptop or wherever, but now you control that account instead of potentially a thief or somebody creating a new account with your information out there. I mentioned here, lock up sensitive documents and always shred or use a certified document destructive service to destroy statements that have your accounts in that. Never give your personal information to anyone who calls, emails, and texts you. If you didn't initiate the request, and that gets back to, don't click on things, don't respond to clicks, and if the email is supposedly from your bank, you can call your bank, usually with the telephone number on the back of a credit card or that. You can get that information. Or if you have a link in your bookmarks, or use another method to go out to your bank. Don't click on their links, because if it's a scammer, they're going to send you to their site. You can also use mobile-based payment packages like Apple Pay and Android Pay. We talked about this a couple of presentations ago. Those are much safer and secure than using a physical credit card that might be stolen, or a number that might be stolen. Keep your operating system, your apps, your antivirus, all that stuff up to date. Delete old apps. On social media sites like Facebook, use a built-in security to limit what personal information you make public. There's resources available out on the Social Security Administration for reporting fraud. So this is a link. If you suspect that your Social Security, Medicare, or Social Security has been hijacked or that, there's ways to report that. And if you do suspect that somebody has created a credit card or done anything, there's ways to stop that and recover. And so one of the things you can do, you can place a free 1-year fraud alert by going out to this website or calling this number, and this notifies those 3 credit bureaus that you suspect that somebody is doing fraudulent things using your name and your accounts and that, and this puts up a huge alert there. You also want to contact fraud departments, so if you do have other credit cards and that, you want to report to them that you suspect that somebody is, a thief is going after your accounts. You want to document everything, keep your statements and showing who you talk to and information like that, because it can be done as quickly as a month, kind of shutting some things down, but sometimes it drags out to almost a year of trying to get things cleared up. You can also go out to the Federal Trade Commission. They have a tool that helps you report and recover from identity theft. And this is the website, and you can follow the plan there and a checklist that it'll have for you to work with. Okay, lots of tips out that I gave out there, and the most important ones are freezing your accounts and monitoring your accounts. So those are the 2 most important things that you can do there to protect yourself, because unfortunately there's a lot of data available out on the dark web, including Social Security numbers and birthdays and addresses and names that a thief could use to cause you trouble. Okay, questions, comments? Yeah.
You frozen your credit report account when you want to do the annual credit check. You have to unfreeze that account to do it.
The credit monitoring does not require that you unfreeze your credit. The freezing of the credit stops new credit cards from being issued. It stops loans from being taken out. That's what it stops. So it's not stopping the monitoring and that. So the only time that you have to unfreeze your credit is, let's say I was going to go buy a new car and I was going to get a loan on that car. Well, if I went to the car dealership and go back here in case for the people online. If I went to the car dealership and they'd want to run a credit report, they'd attempt to run a credit report because it's currently frozen. They're going to get a message back that says, we can't give you information about this person. So the auto dealership would come back to me and say, Tom, you've got to unfreeze the credit for Experian for usually it's an afternoon or at most a day for them to run a credit check on you. And once you're approved for the loan or the auto dealership is done, the next day you'd freeze back your credit there. So you only unfreeze it for a short amount of time to get that loan, or if you were applying for a brand new credit card, to apply for a brand new credit card.
And if you do that, I mean, if you freeze the account, actually, if I wanted to unfreeze it because I want to do something, I buy a car, do you have to unfreeze all 3 accounts or just one?
Usually you're just unfreezing one of them because the auto dealership is going to, they go to just one of them usually, and they'll tell you which one and stuff like that because they're used to dealing with it now. Anybody that does loans or issues new credit cards, they're all used to that because most people are freezing their accounts, and you can, so I have mine frozen. Well, I've had mine frozen for, I don't know what it is, must be about 7, 8 years now, and I haven't gotten any new credit cards. I haven't taken out any loans. Uh, I did buy a new car. When I bought the new car, I didn't have a loan, and I paid cash, but the auto dealership did run a credit check on me. They didn't run a credit report, and the credit check, I asked them, well, why are you running a, because they gave me my credit score and some other information. They were checking, and I said, why are you even doing that? Because I'm paying cash. I'm not taking out a loan where they have to check if I can buy the car. You're getting a check for the whole value of the vehicle. So, but I didn't have to even unfreeze it there for what they did. But if I had gotten a loan, definitely I would have had to unfreeze it for that short amount of time for them to check me out, do the loan, and then I'd freeze it again. And there's no cost, so you can be turning it on and off, as needed. But most people, it's going to be infrequent that you'd have to unfreeze it and do anything.
Can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
When I originally froze those accounts, it was because somebody had used my credit card, which related to me because the credit card was in my wallet. I mean, it hadn't been stolen or anything, so I guess they got the data off something I had ordered. But the way I originally found out about it was my credit card company called me. So that's a valuable thing too, if you could set that up with your credit card company, because it was something I ordinarily would never put on a credit card. And they called me and said, did you order like plane tickets to? And I was like, no. And it was, a considerable chunk of money, so they stopped the credit card right away, and they reported it, and I actually think people who did it got picked up by the cops when they went to their plane ticket.
No,
It
that's
was still a pain, they had to give me a new credit card and new, numbers and everything, and that's when I, froze the.
yeah, and certainly that can happen. For those that may be online or watching the recording, the comment was made that there was some fraudulent use of a credit card and some charges there, and the credit card company had called. And I've had that before with my credit card where I've noticed a charge that I didn't make, and then I called my credit card company, and they'll put you in touch with their fraud department, and then the fraud department will ask you some questions, and they'll check on where the charge was initiated, and if there's merchandise being shipped to a location. So they'll check on all those things, and they usually clear those things up pretty fast. Within a few days, they'll come back, or a week at the most, and come back and say, this is reversed off of your account, and they'll issue you a new credit card with a new number. That you don't have to unfreeze or do anything because you already have a credit card. The freezing and unfreezing is only if you were applying for a brand new credit card. So even that type of fraud, you don't have to unfreeze and then freeze again. But it's good to monitor the stuff there. Now, as you mentioned, some of that monitoring is done by the credit card company or the bank automatically now. So they have artificial intelligence and these programs that say, gee, we noticed this charge on Mary's credit card here, and that's not normal for Mary to to have a charge this large or from this business. And so that's when they'll call you or attempt to, it's suspicious that it might be somebody trying to put some false charges through. So things have gotten better, and they will contact people on some of these charges. But it's also good if you have the notifications so that you kind of know immediately, instead of, well, you get a bill at the end of the month and then you go, boy, where did this come from? Or here's tickets to the Taylor Swift concert. I didn't go to the Taylor Swift concert. Where did that come from? It's better to know that sooner rather than at the end of the month, and that's where all these credit cards and banks will let you get a text message if you have a smartphone, or an email, or stuff like that, a notification whenever there's any charge at all. Okay? I think Sister had. We'll get Sister. Yes.
My question is, another way is saying there is someone searching for your medical records. Well, what about a certain down thing, and why would anybody want medical records?
Yeah. Let me get back here. Yeah, the question was, you probably got in the mail a notice that said information had been stolen. I got one of those too. The place where I had a colonoscopy done, they had a data breach, and the data breach, the reason these thieves go after any of these sites is they're collecting information. So if they break into a medical server or your patient's records, your patient records are going to have things like your social security number, your telephone number, your address, your phone number, that information. Well, they can use that information then to open up a new credit card or other loan and do other nefarious things with the information that they get. So there's value in getting information, whether it's medical information from a doctor's office, or if it's from the state of Minnesota, if you have a car and you've licensed that, there's value to all of these little pieces of information. And all we can do to protect ourselves is we can't stop this information from being collected. So when you go to the doctor, you have to give them all this information. They put it on their system. You can't say, no, I'm not going to give you any information, because they wouldn't be able to bill Medicare, and they wouldn't be able to do the things that they do without this information. But all we can do is we can just kind of protect ourselves so that if that information is stolen, we protect ourselves so that new credit cards or new things can't be opened up and charges being put against what we have. Okay? Okay.
What, in this building, Presbyterian has gone to using credit cards for charges, especially meals is probably the bigger one, and also or you see electronic cards where you can have stored value in their system. So is there anything to watch for in that?
Yeah, the question, I'll repeat it for the recording, or that is, Carondelet has gone to a credit card, and you can either put money on it or things like that for charges like at the bistro or different things, and that is there anything that can be done kind of to protect that? And I would say there's not much that you can do there, but it's not as high a risk as some of this other. So somebody couldn't use the Carondelet credit card to go to a Best Buy and buy a 105-inch TV. They couldn't do that. Or if somebody was located in Russia or India, if that person somehow found out the number of the Carondelet credit card, they wouldn't be able to really do anything with it. They can't call up here and say, send me 1,000 meals over to India. It's not gonna. So the risk with that type of a credit card is very low. The thieves want something that they can turn into money at these common stores or things like that. So, but it doesn't, the same diligence that you do with a normal credit card, you should do with the Carondelet credit card. You don't want to, leave it at a store, or you want to keep it in your purse or in your wallet.
It doesn't exist except in Hollywood.
I believe they do issue a card itself. You can have a card, otherwise they can look it up and charge it that way too. But so if you do have the card, you want to be a little careful with it. But again, I wouldn't worry about that card the same way that I'd worry about another credit card that I might have. Yes.
So when you say freeze your credit, you're talking about credit card, bank account. What are you freezing?
Yeah, the freezing is this freeze goes to these three credit bureaus: the Equifax, the TransUnion, and I forgot the third one, but it goes to those three. Those three are used whenever a new credit card, one of those three is used whenever you open up a new credit card, or you get a bank loan, or you get an auto loan, or you apply for a job. In some cases, people are checking on your credit. And so that's what the freeze does, is the freeze kind of says, wait a minute, don't let anybody in unless I tell you to let them in. And that's where the unfreezing comes in. If you were going to buy a car, or you were going to get a new Target credit card, you'd have to unfreeze it for the Target credit card, get it, and then freeze it again.
So I guess what I sort of don't understand, when you freeze it, you're using your credit card number?
No.
How do you freeze these things?
The freezing puts a note on your credit that a new credit card cannot be opened and a new loan cannot be taken out. The existing credit cards that you have, nothing is going to happen to those. Those will always function the same way as they've always functioned. But if somebody attempted to open up, let's say, a new Target credit card, they would not be able to open up a new Target credit card in your name, because it would go to this credit bureau. The credit bureau would say, it's frozen. We are not allowing a new credit card being opened.
You're really freezing the opening of something.
Yes, it's the opening up. And yeah, it doesn't shut down any of your bank accounts or any existing credit cards that you currently have. It's the freezing of opening up new loans, new credit cards, things like that. And the credit monitoring is the second part of that, where the credit monitoring is showing you the cards that you currently have or own and the current loans that you have and stuff like that. So if frequently people will have a credit card that they never canceled. They maybe cut up the credit card, they never canceled it. And it's just sitting out there inactive. You know, there hasn't been a charge in years and stuff like that. But maybe a thief or somebody stealing this data here comes across a number and starts to use that credit card. So the monitoring, you can kind of clean up and make sure that you're aware of what cards you have, what loans you have, things like that. Okay. Other questions or comments? But yeah, you do want to freeze. I didn't mention it here, but it's if you're a younger family, when you do the freeze, you want to freeze it for everyone in the family. That includes the children, because children are very susceptible to identity theft of opening up new credit cards in their using their social security number and their information, because thieves know that somebody probably hasn't frozen that account. They don't have an online account set up, so it's easy for a thief or that to use the information, the name, the phone number, the address, the social security number, and you could open up a new credit card and you could charge a bunch of money there right away, and it'd take a month or 2 months for stuff to start showing up and cause problems there.
I am on one page for religious sisters. I'm wondering if our accountant is responsible for looking at any of this.
Excuse me, I didn't quite get that.
Well, because we're a religious
Yeah.
community and we're using community money,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if our accountant at the ad center is seeing when we open up some, when we're freezing it and stuff.
Usually the freezing and the unfreezing is just for your tied to your social security number and your account. So it's not tied to an organization that you belong to or things like that. So it really is a personal thing in terms of the credit bureaus are monitoring you personally. If you ever filed for bankruptcy, it'd be under your social security number. If you ever needed a loan, it'd be under your social security number and things like that. If the organization has taken out a loan or that's an entirely different credit deal there. So the Sisters of St. Joseph or whatever, they have their own accounts and things like that.
Yeah, all our monies come from them.
But it couldn't be protected because the credit card is a company.
Yeah, so it's only when the money kind of gets to you, if you're getting a monthly stipend or stuff like that into your account, but I can't imagine that all of you are using the same credit card.
Or the same thing.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure they're protected there. This is more of a personal, if somebody was opening it up in your name, using your social security number, or filing taxes. Well, to file taxes, all you need is a name and a social security number. And that's what these hackers or thieves will do is file for a refund before you may file your regular tax, and then it starts getting messy. You're going to have to spend time to undo what they may have done there. Okay?
Yeah, this is really helpful.
No, well, hopefully protect yourself and don't be too worried. Some people get too Like the gentleman there, you'll pull out your hair if you are concerned that your information is out on the dark web. Everybody's information is out there. So what you want to do is you want to take some of these steps to protect you so that you do freeze, so that new credit cards can't be opened, that you are monitoring some of this stuff. And all this stuff can be done for free. And it's good to kind of have a handle on if new accounts are created and new charges are made and things like that. Okay? Okay, thank you.